In this video, I'm going to tell you how I fired my biggest client. As a small business owner / entrepreneur, sometimes you want to go after the big deals. You want to try and you want to make it big. The problem is the big deals are the ones that could either make or break you, and the risk involved is so big that sometimes it's just not worth it. I grew up in the meat industry, in the family business, and I was there for a number of years, and I decided I needed to change direction a little bit. But I still stayed on, I still helped on a part-time basis. I was still a facilitator and an assessor and a moderator and so on. And I still played around with meat as much as I could. But in 2017, when I was retrenched, I needed to do something. And myself and my parents agreed that I'm gonna take over the family business, the training business. And my idea was to go back to what we had when the business was initially started. So it started off as a training center, but we also worked meat for cash flow, because naturally what you work on, you need to get rid of it. So we started doing quite a bit of wholesale back in the day. And unfortunately, to the point where the wholesale almost took more focus than the training, but we try to balance it as much as possible. And I decided we needed to go back to this sort of setup. We had a building, we made changes to the building, converted it, we built big cold rooms, big temperature controlled working environments and all sorts. And there was a little bit of money left over for stock. I started buying meat, we started training people, and I needed to get rid of it. So I went to, in fact, my father went to somebody who supported us back in the day and took fairly high volumes of meat. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm not about to deal with any legal issues as a result of this. But my father went back and said, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Would you be willing to support us? Would you like to support us?" And yeah, happy days. We can work something out. Now, for this individual, price has always been an issue, and our prices were good. They were really, I must be honest, they were really, really good, and to the point where it couldn't be beat. And we had stock that you couldn't get from anybody else. It wasn't available. So even if it was available anywhere else, our price was by far better. And I started supplying the person, I think after the third or fourth week. I've now supplied everything. Some things are starting to add up, like the bones and the fat and so on. And I'd made my delivery, I think it was on a Wednesday. On the Thursday, and I did the delivery myself. And on the Thursday, I got a call from the owner saying I must come fetch my rubbish. And I asked what the issue was, and the issue was that the meat that we supplied was too lean. It wasn't fat enough. And unfortunately, that's not something that I have control over. I can only buy what I get supplied from the abattoir. I can say what I want, and I can get a preference, but ultimately I can only get what is available. And in our case, in South Africa, C grade also tends to be quite on the rare side. So it's not as freely available. So you kind of have to take what's available. So try to diffuse the situation. What's the story? No, come fetch your stuff. I don't want it. It's too lean. So right, cool. Unfortunately, I couldn't go the same day, so I went the next morning. Got there, and it felt like I went to the headmaster's office, and I was in so much trouble because it was a moaning session from when I got there until I left, and the person probably carried on after I left. So what happened was I get there, we go into the cold room. Now it's a sniff, sniff, sniff here in my ear the whole time. And open the cold room, and let me be honest with you, the smell was something horrific. This is a very popular place. They do fairly high volumes, and you must see what their cold room looks like on the inside. It is absolutely ridiculous what it looks like and what it smells like. So what they've gone and done is they've taken the meat that I supplied. Some of it was still in bags, didn't even bother to open the bag, so it could sit there and go off, and they couldn't care less. And some of it was in the trays. Again, they were absolutely filthy. It's ridiculous. And I made a plan, took everything. It was sitting in the in that sort of blood water, and it wasn't great. Luckily, I could do something with it. I had to quickly work it because it was still fine, but it wasn't going to be fine for another 2 days. So, ultimately, I ended up thinking to myself, either I need to replace this, or I just need to credit this, but then whichever way, I need to walk away. If I replace it, I need to incur more costs to be able to replace it, and then I'm just going to add more drama to my whole situation, and I'm going to sit with more fat and more bones and more everything. Or I could just credit it, walk away, but when I walk away completely. And I remember saying, you know what, it's fine. I'll give you credit for what I've taken back, and that's the end of it. And I ended up taking my meat back, put it in my truck, took it back to the factory, and passed the credit. Never spoke to the person again. It's ironic though, because our prices were good, and he was still complaining about the prices, forever complaining about the prices. It doesn't appear to be somebody who's short of money, and that's probably why. It's because he'll do everything just to kill the small oaks. So the point is, as a smaller business, sometimes you want to do business, and it was a fairly high volume of meat that this person took. But you want to do the high volumes, but it comes at a cost. If he drops you, you have nowhere to go with it. Or he takes only this, and he only takes the best, and you're stuck with the rest. And what do you do then? So you need to get very, very clever. So I needed to make a plan very quickly, and I ended up selling about a ton of mince in a very, very, very short period of time. And what it took was to sit down and use the internet, make phone calls, send emails, and ultimately I could at least save the situation. But the point is, never went back, never made contact with this person again, and I will never do business with him again. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And that's the day I fired my biggest client.